Thank you to the panelists for accepting our invite and joining us. And I think Malini ma'am gave a very good introduction and opening remarks to start this webinar. And I think she has provided the broad canvas on which we could steer this webinar. Uh, and I'll try and talk about the underwater framework. And I have titled this presentation on UDA framework for comprehensive, structured, and inclusive. Comprehensive because it covers every aspect that requires to be addressed. The second is it is structured because it provides a way in which multiple stakeholders and multiple sectors can interact with each other or can exchange inputs or information with each other. And inclusive because it covers even the communities, even the young professionals, the students who are looking to contribute to a larger cause. And of course, digital transformation is recognized as the next tool for governance. I will, as always, I will emphasize on the tropical characteristics, and we know the Indo-Pacific and the strategic perspective. So I think I'll not now, the tropical challenges are very well known. One is definitely any UDA will require an acoustic survey, and the equipment, that is the sonar that is used for acoustic survey, suffers significant degradation in the tropical waters. I'm saying this in comparison to the tropical and the temperate water where these equipments were originally designed during the Cold War era. Now, that's a very big challenge when we have to really look at the UDA. Now, the Indo-Pacific, now that is a term used by the entire strategic community. By definition, the Indo-Pacific is the tropical waters of the Indian Ocean and the Pacific Ocean. So again, the emphasis on the tropical waters becomes very, very critical. Now, whenever we look at any aspect, I mean, Malini ma'am gave a very good uh, introduction, and she talked about the comprehensiveness of the whole maritime. I mean, we know 75% of the earth is water. Now, if we have to really make sure that we harness this maritime sector in a more effective manner, we have to look at people, economy, nature. The communities, typically what we see is the communities get marginalized when we talk about developmental projects. And that creates a lot of socio-economic and socio-cultural challenges. Of course, anything today after the post COVID era, post pandemic era, large part of the world is facing massive economic recession, and the oceans or the maritime domain has significant uh, opportunity to offer to even take care of. So blue economy is something we need to look at. But while we are aggressively pursuing the blue economy, we must also look at the sustainability concerns and also the climate change concerns that arise out of it. Now, when we talk about the UDA framework, there are broadly four stakeholders who need to be taken into account: the security, the blue economy, the sustainability and disaster management, or sustainability and climate change risk management, and of course, science and technology or the digital transformation. Just to give you a sense of each of these stakeholders that we talked about, even in the freshwater system, underwater domain awareness becomes a very, very important aspect, whether for security, whether for even safety becomes a very important aspect. We've already had incidents to remind us, how devastating it could be. Then, of course, blue economy. I mean, now we are increasingly looking at the oceans or the water bodies for food security, but we are definitely not doing it in the right manner. I mean, the fish stock is on the decline, but the bycatch is on a very, very high level of almost 80%. And then deep ocean mission or rare earth metals available in the oceans are being now aggressively pursued. But if we do not have a nuanced approach, we'll be running out of ideas. Just to give you some more understanding, I mean, the dredging is being used, but how sustainable is it is something we need to look at. Again, some pictures of disaster management. Now, science and technology, we understand very little. I mean, the data shows that we only know 5% of the underwater space. We know more about the space than the underwater domain. So there's a lot of work to be done. What is the kind of ecosystem that exists below the surface? How these components of the ecosystem interact with each other? But now, if you just look at the Indian EEZ, we are talking about a 3.7 million square kilometer of area. How many sensors can we put? So how do we leverage smart technologies or smart sensors to make sure that we are able to uh, map the entire area? Now, this is the framework that we are talking about, which I call it comprehensive, structured, and inclusive. If you see, four sides of the cube represent the four stakeholders. So the vertical construct is that each of these stakeholders may have their own requirement, but the core will remain the acoustic capacity and capability building, irrespective of who the user is or who the stakeholder is. If we do not pool in resources and synergize our efforts to enhance the acoustic capacity and capability building, we will not be able to achieve what we want to achieve. The second is the horizontal construct. We know very little about our underwater space. So a lot of sensing, analysis, and then only policy needs to be looked at. So a lot of local data or local sensing is required. And each of these smaller cubes could become, or many cubes within those cubes can become the career opportunities for the young India that we talk about, or not just in India. I mean, this entire tropical region or the Indian Ocean region, the population density is very high. So there can be meaningful career engagement or career opportunities for the young aspirational individuals that we have here. So the demographic advantage can be really taken forward, otherwise it becomes a disaster. So these cubes represent the various projects or various opportunities that will be available. Right now, it is only less than 4% that the maritime domain contributes to the GDP. So we are very happy today that we have representatives from the important ministries, Ministry of Earth Sciences, Ministry of Environment, and also a former DG Shipping, and also represented by the industry, people who have been engaged in in the sustainable growth for a long time. And of course, Ambassador Mudgal, who's been part of the initiation of the Sagar vision of the Honorable Prime Minister. Now, the same thing, we have broken it down into smaller parts, like underwater radiated noise due to shipping has become a very big issue now. But the same capability can also help the stakeholder, like the acoustic stealth for the strategic security community. So how do we combine all these? I mean, there would be concerns of data security or classified data being shared, but I think there is always a way forward where these entities can come together and focus on capacity building. Another example is sediment management. Tropical waters also have a very unique sediment transport pattern. So how do we, I mean, when we are seeking support from the West, we must be very mindful that we have a very unique condition which definitely the West will not understand. So indigenous effort is indispensable and we need to really focus on that. Now, inland water transport is a very massive initiative of the Government of India, but the sediment, the siltation is a very big problem there. So how do we look at it in a very, nuanced manner? Now, this is something I wanted to, in the last Quad Summit, not last, I mean, the one in 2021, the Quad leaders talked about data sharing and for greater public good. Now, I want to give you an example where we did a study on snapping shrimps, because these are very noisy and they can even prevent a submarine from operating in the tropical waters. I mean, the tropical waters are the habitat of snapping shrimps. But so we developed a digital tool to monitor snapping shrimp habitat and the soundscape. But the same work is also very important, and we have converted it into an APY tool, area under cultivation, productivity, and yield. So what I'm trying to bring out here is that the whole maritime community can come together for capacity building and translate this across multiple sectors or multiple users. So that's something, I mean, yesterday we had a very senior professor who had come, who visited us for a day, and he's working on India's maritime power. My submission is that capacity and capability building would be a very, very important component of India's maritime power. And I think UDA will become the main driver, or more specifically, the digital transformation will become the main driver of this maritime power. Marine spatial planning is something which is now, I mean, we are happy to have the UNESCO director with us today. He'll be speaking after this. Marine spatial planning is now being taken forward by the UN agencies for better governance across the maritime space. But what we bring to the table here is, I mean, marine spatial planning in the conventional way of putting sensors or trying to collect data across the water bodies is going to be extremely difficult, particularly for the global south. It's a very, very expensive proposition. So how do we build more high technology, or I would like to talk about the uh, modeling and simulation part of it. So this is what you see here is due to the underwater noise because of shipping. So this has been based on the modeling and simulation extracted from the AIS data and various multiple data sources. I'll not get into the technical details of it. So you can see the entire world can be mapped using this thing, and this is extremely low cost and very, very effective. And we have now worked on the MSP across multiple applications. And what you can see on the left-hand side, different applications, you just click, and we have my team led by Sridhar are steering this. And I mean, this is work in progress, and probably it will require multiple of my lifetime to populate this. But this is something we have started, and this gives a very different direction to the MSP that is being driven globally. So this is what I was trying to build in, and it also incorporates the tropical characteristics of the Indo-Pacific. Now, when we talk about any collaboration or any UDA capacity and capability building, it can be divided into three components: to see, to understand, and to share. To see is the sensors and the platform that will carry the sensor. So whenever we talk about collaboration or partnership, we can definitely, to start with, till the time we develop the capabilities, definitely work on collaboration for the 2C component, where we import sensors and the platform that can be deployed. But the second component, to understand, has to be indigenous for multiple reasons. One is definitely the Western experts will not have an understanding of the tropical waters. But the also important part is that the data needs to be protected, or data should not go out. So having an indigenous effort will be very, very important in this. The third is to share. Many people take this component very, very lightly, but I would like to emphasize on this, that there are different types of users, and each user will have its own limitations and also its own requirement. Now, if it is a policy maker, then he doesn't have a problem constraint of space, or even so he can have larger displays with a lot of information available to him. But if you contrast this with a fisherman who has to be on a boat or a platform which is open to the weather, then he needs to be provided a screen which is portable, so a mobile app kind of a system. But also that has to be extremely specific. Now, if it's a shrimp a fisherman involved in shrimp cultivation, then he needs to be given, and that to a particular species that he is interested in. So it has to be customized to that extent. And I think in India, the kind of talent that we have, all this is very easily possible, and we need to focus on this. Somehow this component gets completely ignored when we are developing systems. The second aspect, when I talk about digital transformation, I'm trying to put this from a livelihood perspective. Now, here we need three types of, three categories of people. One is the high-end data analytics. So these are smart engineers or people who can afford higher education, who can contribute to this thing. And we are struggling with employability opportunities. So this is one category. But once that data is picked up, then we need domain specialists. With the vast demographic advantage that we have, they can be specialized, trained to the customized requirement, and they can provide us input. But the third part is far more important for me. As I was talking in the beginning, our coastal communities or the native communities sometimes get completely excluded from the development process. The field deployment can be largely done by them. They need a bit of skilling, but they do have a lot of traditional knowledge, and it's part of their traditional practices in terms of dealing with the water body. So that can be utilized in this, and this can be a win-win for all of us. So I think the way we do it, outreach, engage, sustain. So this is also one of the outreach effort where we sensitize as many people and then start engaging at multiple level, at the young professional and the young student level who are looking for opportunities, but at the stakeholder level also who are looking at opportunities to kind of look at innovation and research, and then of course coming out with proposals to sustain this whole initiative. And of course we should look at a center of excellence which covers all the 5 aspects of research, innovation, skilling, knowledge, and also policy. So we have been, as an organization, we have been working on multiple platforms. UDA Digest, which looks at various literature, because this is a new area. So how to create as much body of work so that any person who's entering into this domain gets a lot of information. Then we run a UDA Research Center. All these are freely available. I would request everybody to please have a look at that. Then UDA Dialogue is an audio-video format. Even what our experts are going to talk today is also going to get recorded into that. And then most important is the UDA Learning Center, where we have sets of e-learning modules on various subjects, which covers, as you can see, the basics of the UDA framework, then blue economy, climate change, sediment management, digital transformation, and also URN management has now been added to it. They have already been uploaded. The first set has been uploaded in the IGOT platform of the Government of India. And I am told that we are the top rated domain specific e-learning module there. This is how the platforms look. And we generate a lot of documents also, which is reports are there, which people can definitely use. MSP is something we are driving very, very seriously. And I think I would like to thank Mudgal sir also for being our mentor on this initiative. So thank you very much.